G'day guys, it's Will from Mower. Today we're going to be installing our mower tracker into this brand new 32V ride. So what we've gone and done is found our wiring schematic. This can be found online or in your user manual depending on which brand of machine you are running. This particular machine is fairly easy to install, or in general you're only going to be looking for a ground wire, ignition wire and positive wire. If you can't find a wiring schematic, you can use a test light to then find ignition, positive and ground as well. So come on in and we're going to start this install process today. Okay guys, so what we've basically done to make this really easy for you to see is we've just pulled the wiring loom semi out. We've just disconnected the dash. Okay, now generally you wouldn't have to go to this extent, but for the purpose of the video that's what we have done. Now Skaggs made this install really simple for us. They do come standard with a auxiliary plug. So on this particular plug what we find is red is our ignition wire, so we only get power to this wire once the ignition is turned on. Okay, black is our ground, it's a full-time ground, and then for a full-time positive wire we've found this wire here which leads into our ignition harness. Now these connections are really easy to depict from your ignition plug. All you have to do is simply slide a flathead screwdriver down one side of the plug and push the lock out and you'll be able to remove this cable. So we're going to splice into all three of these wires as neat as possible, making sure that the crimps that we are using are nice and tight. Okay, and then double checking obviously that we do have full-time ignition and ground. And you can see this with a simple test light. Okay, if we put that and our test light lines up, that means we've got a full-time power on that. And then obviously we can switch our test light over to a positive and then figure out our ground, ignition and so forth. So what we're going to do now is we are going to plumb our GPS tracker into three of our wires using the crimps supplied in the kit. We'll get back to you in 2 seconds, guys. Alright guys, so now we've gotten to the point where we've hooked in our full-time positive wire into the wiring harness. And we've done a really nice crimp there and ensure that's a sound connection. Okay, and once we're all finished we're going to wrap all this with nice loom or electrical tape. You can also add a bit of dielectric grease before plugging this back in as well. Okay, then we run our positive wire up our wiring loom, making sure to leave our fuse exposed. This is our fuse for our tracker. In the unlikely event that that fuse does blow, okay, we need to be able to get to that and change that out. Okay, so now we're at the end of our wiring harness here. Okay, we've got our positive and our ignition wire. Now this is a really important step that you need to crimp these connectors on really well, okay, because you're going from a small diameter wire to a large diameter wire, so the crimps do need to be really well crimped on as tight as possible. If you do have a soldering iron, then that would make a better connection between the small ones, but most people don't, so we're going to use connectors today. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is hook in my negative wire, black to black, and making sure that I have a really solid connection on the end. I can use these basic wire crimpers here. Anybody can get them. Okay, they're available at Bunnings or any hardware store, even J-Car, and on there you'll have the color of the connection. So we're using a blue connector, so it's the middle connector there, and we're just going to crimp that on nice and tight. Alright, ensure that your connection is sound, give it a bit of a tug, and that's good. Okay, and then we're going to do our positive wire or our ignition wire, and again same thing, just pop it down in there like so. Okay, get our crimpers and then crimp them on just like so as well. Okay, once it's done, give it a good tug test. That's pretty much our install done. As you can see, it comes to a really nice end loom there. And again, if you don't have sort of a auxiliary wire on your machine, then you can just plumb all of this into the ignition. Your ignition will have ground, positive, and ignition positive as well. I just prefer not to have so many wire crimps all in the same area. And if I can take advantage of a loom that's not doing anything, I will. So what we can do now is we'll tape all of this up, make it really neat, plumb it back into the machine, and then we'll show you where we're going to stick the tracker today. Be back in a second. Okay guys, so we're at the point where we put all our loom back into the mower. It's really nice and neat in here now, and you really can't tell that we've added anything into the harness. So we've got our wire here poking out. It's really accessible if we need to replace that fuse in the wiring loom. And we're just going to do a quick double check. Now in the workshop we obviously do have a test light. If you don't, that's cool, you can just skip this part. But before I sort of like double-sided tape the tracker up into the unit, I do like to check. So I've just got to set this to check for positive at the moment. So red is our positive on this side. We'll just double check, being very careful we don't touch the ground and earth anything out. Okay, cool. Now checking this side to see if we've got ignition. So it should not light up right now because we have the ignition off, which it doesn't. Ignition on, and it should light up perfect. Okay, we can switch our lead over to check ground, being careful we don't touch that positive together, and it should light up perfect. So we've got ground, positive, and ignition. So we're all ready now to pop our tracker in place, which we've got here. Okay, now these are fully waterproof, and there is a side which they go up. Okay, so for example, if it's going to stick up underneath the machine here, then we want to stick it up that way, okay, or that way. I like to hide them so you can put them anywhere from underneath here, okay. You want them nice and accessible, so if you do need to pull them out, you can, and nice and easy to plumb in as well. So what we're going to do is grab a bit of double-sided tape, stick it on the back here, and pop it up in. The reason why we want to stick the double-sided tape on that side is so if we do have to get into the unit at all and replace the little battery inside, we can do without having to peel double-sided tape off the actual tracker itself. So what we'll do is we'll find the best position we can in here for the tracker, and then we'll stick it up in, and then we'll go through how to set it up.
All right.
Okay guys, so what I've done now is double-sided tape the back of the tracker, and I'm going to stick it in this area here and behind. So I've already routed my wires up there, they're all ready to go, and I'm just going to pop it underneath there. Now the reason I'm going here is because there's going to be nothing impeding the signal, okay? It's got all open areas everywhere it can go, but it is sort of still hidden away that nobody's going to be able to see it. So we're just going to pop it up in there, plug it in, and then we'll come right back to you. Alright guys, so the install's fully done now. So what we've done is we've got the tracker information loaded up into our smartphone. So basically how that works is we provide our tracking company with your first, last name, email address, contact number. Okay, they'll then send you a password out via email. So it's a fully password protected system. That password then you save to your app on your phone, and then you have live tracking again with A to B tracking. You can track how long someone's at a certain location for, set up geofences, everything like that. And basically what we can see now is you can't even tell the tracker was there. What we'll do is we'll have a couple of zoom in photos in a minute, and you can see that the wiring's super neat, and you can replicate this really easily at home no matter the brand. So again, you can install these trackers on any brand. It's simple, 3-wire. You've seen how to do it on this specific model. The same principle will apply on everything. If you have any questions, just let us know. Send us an email. And also if you're after wiring schematics or any information about your machine, just hit us up. But again, we'll come in, we'll have a look, and we'll see how nice the install ended up. And you honestly, from the outside, you couldn't even tell there's a tracker there. Cheap insurance, guys. $500 purchase. That is going to include for free the first year of monitoring, valued at $135. Every year, therefore, after that, you will be up for $135 per annum, which for me, as peace of mind to know where your machine is all the time, it's priceless. So check it out, mowermerch.com.au. You guys have a freaking ripper day. Okay, so super nice install, really neat and tidy. As you can see, our fuse, wait for us to, there we go. See, our fuse is really accessible, nice and easy. You couldn't even tell that we've plumbed in a tracker. All right, guys, there it is, mowermerch.com.au. Have a great day.